Um, Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Wednesday, August 17th Mountain Lion Board meeting, calling this meeting to order. I'd like to let the public know that the board may move into executive session on any given item if we so choose to. With that, can we get roll call?
Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. City of Flagstaff, Adam Shimoni.
Present.
Thank you. Coconino County, Geronimo Vasquez. Excused. City of Flagstaff, Miranda Sweet, excused. NAU, Josh Mayer.
Present.
Thank you. And CCC, Tony Williams.
Present.
Thank you. We have members of staff in the Vera room at Mountain Lion and on Zoom. We also have our attorney, Chris Beecher, with us. Chris?
Good morning, everybody.
Thank you. And we have Michelle Molinario, another attorney, online with us. Michelle, are you still here? Hello. And in the Vera room, we have a staff member, Andy Brown, and a member of the public, David Spence. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Rhonda, and welcome everyone. Good to see all of your faces and be with you. Hope everyone's had a nice, pleasant, rainy summer. Yeah, so thank you for that. Let's move right along to item number 3, which is our safety minute with Sam Short.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. The August Safety Minute is regarding school zone safety. So it's August again and time for kids everywhere to attend school. Each year, more than 56 million children from their homes travel from their homes to attend school by walking, biking, or taking the bus. Drivers must take precautions to account for increased traffic dangers as children return to school. Here are some things you can do to help keep children safe while traveling between school and home. Be very attentive and look out for school zones. There are many types of pavement markings, school zone signs, and crosswalk barricades that should alert you to slow down and pay special attention to your surroundings. If you're planning to travel to or through a school zone, plan more time than normal to get where you are going. This will allow you to be more cautious when going through school zones. Reduce your driving speeds in school zones. Speed limits often drop in these areas because injuries and damages resulting from an accident are greatly reduced when vehicles are traveling at much lower speeds. Watch out for pedestrian crossings. Schools are high traffic areas, so you can expect children, teachers, and parents to be walking throughout the area. Stop for school buses. In all 50 states, it is illegal to pass a school bus that is stopped and has their sign extended and flashing lights on. This indicates that children are getting on or off the bus. Please be extremely cautious as you drive in and near school zones. Reduce speeds and yield to pedestrians and buses at all times. If you stay alert and focused, you can keep yourself and everyone around you safe this school year. Thank you and welcome to the August Mountain Lion Board meeting.
Thank you for that, Sam. That brings us down to item number 4, which is our call to the public. Heather, do we have any public comment? Or Rhonda? Nope.
Yes,
Okay.
we do, actually, and I just wanted to bring to your attention that Supervisor Judy Begay did just join us as an alternate to Supervisor Vasquez for this meeting.
Wonderful.
And
Welcome, Supervisor.
we have David Spence, who would like to say a few words to the board.
Where do I sit or stand?
It's up to you. You can go to the podium where you can sit right there. It's up to you.
So they can see me if I'm at the
They
podium?
can. Mhm.
Oh, he was on camera. Now he's not.
When he starts talking, it should.
Okay, I'll start talking now. And I want to just add 10 seconds to that safety minute. I am a school bus driver for FUSD. And I thank you, Mr. Short, for that safety reminder. We're all trying to keep our students safe. I am here today to address the board on the subject of fossil fuel divestment. And it's my understanding that Mountain Line payroll is handled through Wells Fargo Bank. And I want to call to your attention, first of all, the reason I am bold enough to come before the board is I know you folks are concerned about climate change. You are providing mass transit, public transit here in the Flagstaff area, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm aware that you folks have hybrid electric buses on the road now, and you're planning to get 2 fully electric buses on a trial basis. So kudos for Mountain Line in being concerned about the climate. But I want to call your attention to the fact that Wells Fargo is the 4th largest financier of fossil fuel development. Coal, oil, natural gas, pipelines, these are all being financed by the bank that is handling your payroll. And I just want to point out that since the Paris Accord was adopted by our Congress and by the world, Wells Fargo has invested $271.8 billion in fossil fuels. That's billion with a B as in baby, almost 272 billion in the 6 years since the Paris Accord was agreed on. Wells Fargo is one of the 60 banks around the world that have put 4.7 trillion into the fossil fuel industry since the Paris Accord. So Wells Fargo is just right up there with JP Morgan Chase, Citibank, Bank of America, big banks in Japan and China and Germany. Wells Fargo is a dirty bank. And I call on the board to consider pulling your payroll account from Wells Fargo. It will get their attention, especially if you write a Dear John letter after you've taken your money out of their bank, and write them a Dear John letter telling them why you have divested from their bank. And if there are enough of us that do this, Wells Fargo will change their practice. And then we'll move on to Citibank and JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America. So I thank you for your time, and I'd be glad to take any questions that any board members have.
Thank you for your comments. Board members, I believe we're not technically allowed to engage in public comments. Is that correct, Heather? Because it's not agendized, but we really appreciate your comments and thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you for the opportunity to present this idea. Thank you.
Absolutely. Very good. Any other public comments? Rhonda, we good?
Good, thank you.
Very good. Okay, so that brings us down to before we get to approval of minutes, right, Heather, we want to recognize some milestone anniversaries, and I believe Jim is going to be leading this.
Yes, thank you.
Indeed, thank you. And good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I am Jim Wagner. I'm the operations director. And Rhonda, I want to say thank you for getting our pictures up here. Today, I have the pleasure of presenting our milestone anniversaries. In total, we have 4 staff members to recognize. 2 of them are at 10 years and another 2 at 5 years. We have a few of them that are in the audience today. Coming in at 10 years, we have Al Chief and Andy Brown. Al is a dedicated driver who doesn't hesitate to assist whenever needed. It's been with us for, like I say, for 10 years. He drives in from Cameron every day and does a great job there. He's a seasoned operator who drives both Mountain Line bus and paratransit services. Another good thing about Al is that he can step in at any time in the field because he's also been trained as a relief supervisor, which is a big help. Then we have Andy Brown is another dedicated driver who is in attendance today. Wave, Andy. Andy is a huge help. I mean, that's help spelled in all caps, okay? He takes on extra work, offers solutions to daily obstacles and problems. He's also a member of our Accident Review Committee, the ARC. I want to say thank you, Andy. And to the ARC, he brings the driver perspective. So when we see things that are on the camera, what happened, didn't happen, he can actually offer some insight as to what might have been going on in the driver's mind at that time. So that's huge for us. Then we have our 5-year anniversaries. We have Russell Beck, who's not in attendance today, and also Jeremiah McVicker. Russell Beck has been a supervisor for about 2 years now. He started off as a driver, and once again, a dedicated employee who goes out of his way to ensure operations is running smoothly. And really neat thing about Russell is he's really approachable and he's super friendly, and he always has a big smile on his face. And if you want to know something about history, talk to Russell. Then we have, last but not least, but we have Jeremiah McVicker. Jeremiah is coming up on his 1-year anniversary as the maintenance manager. He oversees both facilities and the fleet maintenance. Jeremiah started off as a driver, and then he went to work for facilities as a Tech 2. Then he proceeded on to Tech 3. And he is, and of course, the operations or the maintenance manager. He is also a member of the Accident Review Committee and on the Safety Committee. Now, a fun fact about Jeremiah, fresh out of the military, and moved all over the place. He told his wife that, you know what, it's your turn. You can move anywhere you want to move, but she has to find him a job. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And so you can live anywhere you want. And so she says, I want to move to Flagstaff. Guess who got him? Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you, everybody. That is it for today.
Thank you, Jim, and a big thank you to all 4 individuals, especially those that are with us today. I love the beards, by the way. I'm inspired, but thank you for your years of service to Mountain Lion in our community. We really appreciate it. And a special shout out to Al Chief and his family. Jeremiah, I believe you're gonna acknowledge and recognize someone.
Correct. So sitting right next to me, I have Andrew Everett, recently nominated for the 40 under 40 for mass transit and got accepted. Andrew has been so beneficial to the company for the maintenance. He's almost been with us since the start for maintenance. He has led the development of our departments and PM schedules. He's also crucial in helping us build barriers to keep our drivers safe during COVID, and also their safety. They're strong enough to uphold people banging on them. And throughout the years, Andrew has been just a great asset to the company. He's taken on odd projects to help out with company morale. He took a wheelchair for another employee that used to be pink, stripped it down, painted it black for another individual to really help with the kids' life. So he's sitting right next to me. I just wanted to recognize him in front of everyone.
Andrew, welcome and thank you. And thank you for that recognition, Jeremiah. Andrew, would you like to say a few words?
I'm just going to keep moving forward. I like it here and see where we go. I'm just waiting for my new shop.
Coming soon. We're working on it. That's great. Well, thank you both. And thank you all. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Very good. So that brings us down to item number 5 on our agenda, which is our approval of minutes. Board members, would someone like to bring forward a motion?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion from Director Mayer. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Vice Chair Williams. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And Director Begay, are you with us as well? Might as well call for the nay votes. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. And Director Begay should be voting, right?
Yes.
Very good. Well, we got approval for our minutes. Let's go on to item number 6, which is our amended rules and procedures for the Transit Advisory Committee, TAC, and Board of Directors. This conversation will be led by Rhonda, and staff recommends that the Board of Directors approve the amended rules and procedures related to the TAC and Board of Directors officer relation by agency and change in effective dates. Rhonda, take us away.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. This process was initiated due to having issues getting volunteers for our TAC members to become officers. And had a suggestion from a TAC member following their volunteering when no one else would. We all know how that is. So with that recommendation, Ms. Domlin and I worked with Mr. Holcomb and Mr. Beecher, our attorneys, to see what that might look like. And then when we were reviewing our rules procedure document, we actually found that maybe we should incorporate a couple other changes. So the suggestion was to do a rotation by agency so that it's not the person that holds the officer position, but the agency. And that way, whoever the member is or the alternate or designee, they can pick up and where the other person left off. So or just create an easier transition. And then there would be a set rotation and everybody would take part. So a little more fair than the 3 TAC members that have been constantly officers over time because no one else volunteers. And then we went a step further and thought maybe the board would embrace this rotation as well. So we're offering it for both agencies to consider. And we did put out to the board a message to get some feedback and see if they would be in favor of that. And we got some responses back on that. And they were positive, so that was good. And then the second thing that we're looking at changing is the officer effective dates. As you may know, Chair Shimoni and is not running for office again, and Supervisor Vasquez is running for office. And so depending on how those election results come out, you know, we may have some new members, and we thought it may be an effective time to change when we elect officers. So instead of having the change occur in July, perhaps January would be better to follow our elected officials transition. And then Metro Plan, in our rules of procedure, we did not capture the change that there's now an executive director instead of a manager, and wanted to change that language as well. So here are the alternatives that I listed, and one is to accept all changes for board and TAC. 2 is to accept the changes of only doing the officer rotation for the TAC. 3rd is that we only change the election cycle for board and TAC, and 4th is to do nothing. And so staff is recommending that you adopt all changes, but that is, you know, open for your discussion. And at a minimum, we would ask that you adopt the officer rotation for the TAC, as there's always such a struggle for volunteers to be officers in that group. And so with that, if you have any questions or discussion.
Thank you, Rhonda. Directors, comments, questions, thoughts? Director Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a clarifying question for Rhonda. So if I understand, I know that there's occasions where we might have a long-term alternate. Would the long-term alternate also sort of ascend into the vice chair or possibly the chair role, should that situation exist?
Correct.
Okay.
That is what would happen.
Thank you.
And just to piggyback on that, that would only occur if the alternate was called to be a member, right?
Well, the way we've outlined it is that, just for example, we'll say, Chair Shimoni, you're the member, and you, Mayor DC is your alternate. And if you couldn't be there, but he could, then he would run the meeting.
Right, okay, yes. Yep, that makes sense. Other questions, other comments? Rhonda, my only question was just the rotation sequence would be, a government agency and then a school agency and then a government, just so it's staggered. So it's not that, you have a chair and a vice chair that are both with government or with a school agency. And then I see that Vice Chair Williams has his hand raised.
Thank you, Chair Shimoni. I do have a question that is, I know in the past, particularly for this board, and I suspect this has been the same for TAC, is resignations, retirements, people getting jobs elsewhere and they move on. I'm curious if the TAC had any conversations about the rotation cycle. So let's just say that I'm serving as the chair for the board, and I make a decision to retire in the middle of the term, and the person that replaces my position, would that mean they automatically move into the chair role, or if I was if we had a person that was in that rotation, the position was vacant and then got filled, and all of a sudden their first meeting is serving as vice chair or as chair because of the way the rotation is set up. Was that something that was discussed among TAC?
Well, not specifically, but I think at that point there could be a little leeway in perhaps maybe the vice chair running that first meeting or something like that until they had at least one meeting under their belt to see how things go. I think that we will find a way to embrace the process and make cancellations where we need to, without hopefully throwing off that rotation. Heather, do you have any comments to share on that?
Yeah, I think to my way of thinking, Director Williams, is that it helps us resolve some of the conflict we have when people leave, because what happens is, and a great example of this was actually the 8 months surrounding July 1st of 2019 and the seating of new council members in January of 2020, is we have these elections in July, we have people then move on, we have new people join, and we had several elections right there really close together, versus this rotation that says, yes, the agency holds this seat, and so there's not this big demand for us to do elections again. But I agree, the very intentional and conscious thought about someone coming in may not be ready to run their first meeting. And so I think what Rhonda has suggested would definitely be good to capture as protocols. I still believe that the rotation of chair and vice chair has a long-term impact that improves our ability to focus in these meetings on business and discussions and engagement, and not necessarily the clerical parts, the actual who's the chair, who's the vice chair.
Other comments? Yeah, that was a concern that came to my mind too, is, you know, if you have like a seasoned member of the board and then you have someone brand new stepping in as chair. But I think that we would get through that. And I think that that individual would rise to the occasion within a couple meetings. But might be a little bit clunky at the beginning, but I'm in favor of this approach. I think it's fine. I like that it does rotate. I think it is a more equitable approach. And so are we looking for a motion? I forget.
Yes, please.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion, directors, to amend the rules and procedures related to the TAC and the board.
This is Vice Chair Williams. I would move to accept the recommendation to amend the rules of procedure for the Transit Advisory Committee and the Board of Directors as presented today for the rotation of officers.
Very good, thank you for that. Is there a second?
I'll second. Should we also specify that we'd like to move to approve the change in effective date as well?
That's a good point. So there's a motion on the table and a second. I think we need to now maybe consider an amendment to the motion, correct? And add the dates. Vice Chair, would you be open to amending your motion and adding the effective date change?
Yes, I would move to add the effective date into my motion to approve.
Very good, thank you. And then Director Mayor, will you second that?
I'll second.
Awesome. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same motion. That motion carries. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Do you need anything else from us on this one?
No, this is good. We do have someone that's calling in. And so I don't know if we can take a moment and admit them and then try to find out who it is before we move on. Are you able to?
Sure.
Hello, we have someone calling in. Can you let us know who you are? We have a caller that just joined. Please let us know who you are.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's a number ending with 5936. If that is you and you're listening, please unmute yourself and identify yourself.
Supervisor Begay, are you with us?
Yes, I am, but mine is 255-8213.
Okay, all right, well. Hopefully they'll identify themselves, maybe even to the host in the chat. That would be great.
Yep, so if you are calling in on your phone, please do unmute yourself and identify yourself as you're able to. And Supervisor Begay, welcome. And just a reminder that you're welcome to vote on decisions that we're making on each agenda item. But we're glad to have you with us. Thanks for being with us. Rhonda, should we keep moving?
Yes, I have the next item too.
Okay, so I know that we're skipping, I believe we skipped item number 7, correct?
Actually, no, because, excuse me, we need to affirm basically that you're moving forward with and following the rules of procedure, I believe. So these were the alternatives that were in the packet, and I apologize, I have added a third one because the first one would be if you did nothing. The second one was if you only approved the changing the election cycle. And the third one is to exercise the continuity of extension for both our chair and vice chair, which fortunately Chair Shimoni and Vice Chair Williams have agreed to. And then following the rotation as shown here. And I think we just need to affirm that the board is proceeding with option 3 that follows the amendments now that are taking place for the changes in the rules of procedure to make it official.
So this is saying that as of January, Vice Chair Williams would ascend to chair, and then a representative from the Coconino County Board of Supervisors would be our vice chair.
Correct.
Very good. Directors, any comments or concerns about this? And Rhonda, do you need a motion and a vote?
Please.
Sure. Directors, is there a motion?
I'll provide the motion. I'll move that we approve the continuity, the transition continuity as outlined in option 3.
Thank you, Director Mayor.
If that's, I hope I worded it as right as I could.
I think that'll do.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vice Chair. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same motion. That motion carries. Thank you very much, Director Mayor. And we did identify the caller, and we're good to go with that, Rhonda, just to let you know. So we're down to item number 8 of our agenda, which is our fiscal year 2023 procurement resolution. And Josh Stone is with us. Staff recommends that the Board of Directors approve resolution 2023-110, fiscal year 2023 procurement resolution to authorize the CEO and general manager to 1, approve and award procurements, and 2, execute contracts that support projects that are within the approved fiscal year budget, the 5-year capital improvement plan, the 10-year fiscal plan, and which may be related to the approved annual collective grant resolution. Josh, welcome. Thanks for being with us, and I'll turn it to you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. This item is to approve the annual procurement resolution for the fiscal year 2023, which we are currently in. This is the same as prior years and authorizes delegation to support only those procurements and associated contracts for projects and expenses outlined in the already approved fiscal year budget. This is a board that only meets monthly, and this resolution helps preserve meeting time from being consumed with approvals of contracts each month. I will say we're happy to pull out any contracts or agreements for board discussion if warranted as they arise. But otherwise, with that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Josh. And just a reminder to the directors, I had asked for this to be pulled to be discussed, and Heather and I have discussed much more than just this topic. So I am totally good to go personally, but if anyone has any questions or comments, please speak up. And if not, I will entertain a motion.
This is Vice Chair Williams. I move to approve resolution 2023-110 as presented regarding the fiscal year 2023 procurement resolution that authorizes the CEO and general manager to approve and award procurements and execute contracts and support projects that are within the approved fiscal year budget.
Very good. Thank you, Vice Chair. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Mayor. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Josh. That brings us down to item number 9, which is our Downtown Connection Center update with Deputy General Manager Kate Morley. The board may provide direction, but there is no recommendation from staff at this time. Deputy General Manager Morley, take it away.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Rhonda, you can go ahead to the next slide. It's been a little while since we provided an update on the design progress of the DCC. So that's the goal of today, is to show you the latest renderings. There's no particular action, but feel free to provide any feedback along the way. So a couple major items that we've been working on and had some good success on is BNSF. There's the sliver, there's 3 parcels, a western sliver or a western parcel, a sliver, and then an eastern parcel. And the sliver is owned by BNSF, and the city has gotten the agreement from BNSF to sell them that sliver so that they can consolidate all the parcels. This is a really big deal. They said it's the first time, I think, in 12 years, BNSF has agreed to sell property. So a big step for moving forward, since it was separating our ability to design the project holistically. So that's good news. We also, I believe we reported on this before, but we're successful in our request to the state to provide $6 million for funding for the project. That brings us back up to being able to fund the current cost estimates at $40 million, which does include $10 million of land in that cost estimate for the project. The other great thing about that state funding is it's considered local match by the Federal Transit Administration. So allows us to use that as leverage for the federal funds that we already have or seek additional federal funds with that money. We're currently conducting appraisals on that land value and hope to have more information to you soon on that, confirming the value of the land. The agreement with the city is not to charge Mountain Line for that land. We're looking at a long-term land lease, but we do have to know the value of that property to use it as match for the federal grants. For our NEPA, I just received an email yesterday that makes this bullet point outdated. The State Historic Preservation Office has concurred with our finding of no adverse effect. And so now we have a couple editorial comments to make within the NEPA confirming that, and then it goes to FTA for final approval and signature. So this has been something we've been working on for about 18 months. We're really excited to have our NEPA move forward into this final stage of approval by the regional director. Alongside those things, we've been working on design. We're approaching what we call 50% design, starting to get into building systems and details of the building beyond the concepts, but I'll show you the concepts today. And then also this summer, the City Council approved the IGA and authorized the execution to the city manager. We cannot execute the IGA until the NEPA is complete. Obviously, that's getting much closer, so we're excited for that. We're excited for the support of council and moving forward with the project for the use of that property in this way. So next slide. So what I have for you today are a couple latest renderings. And so we went to 30% design with the firm AECOM. They really helped us with the NEPA approval process and getting through the conditional use permit. We then went out for a final design firm. We hired HDR, and HDR has taken and refined that design. And as they work through mechanical systems, et cetera, obviously design continues to change. So what you see in front of you is slightly different than what you've seen before, but we've really tried to maintain the overall aesthetic of the building and essence that the community has already seen. So the view in front of you is the view that you would see if you were standing essentially in the bus bays or at the bus bay platform, looking at the front of the building. So you're looking essentially here a little bit north, but mostly west on the site. And that's the front entrance that you see. Next slide. This slide here is a view from the east. This is what you would see directly from the bus space. You can see the Amtrak alignment is there on the north side of the building and how the building situates to those tracks so that that second floor gets views over it, which we're pretty excited about. The large portion, the two-story portion, that's really the admin functions. The single-story portion up front are really the public-facing portions of the building. Next slide. This is the view from Milton. This is probably the view that's changed the most as we've worked through technical discussions and trying to figure out how to make this work with the right-of-way that ADOT is requesting and then setback requirements of the city of Flagstaff. We are working through the ramps and stairs. We feel pretty good about the building itself, but don't love the access currently and are trying to figure that out. This is one of the places that we've had comments from the Commission on Inclusion and Adaptive Living. They really wanted to see just a ramp and not a separate set of stairs that could provide universal access into the building. The building has to be elevated relatively high due to the floodplain, like 6 feet. And so and there's not a lot of distance. And so getting good rise and run to meet ADA slopes on a ramp has been a real challenge. And so we're still trying to work through how to best meet those needs and make it aesthetically attractive from the Milton side. So next slide. This is the view from Phoenix Avenue. So if you were standing at the hub or now the Lumberjack, this is what you would see. That front entrance area is where the red hash marks are. That is where the public art would go that the city beautification group is working on. It would go in the windows there. And then that is the entrance and the main entrance into the building as well. On the western side or to the left side of the screen, that's a community room. That was a request of the design. It would also function as our boardroom and community meeting space as well. Next slide. So those are the latest renderings that we have. We're working on creating some more public facing ones, like the very first one I saw you that show you more of that 3D rendering, but we don't want to do it till we get some landscaping concepts done in there as well, so that people can really see how it's going to come together. So that's what we're working on. And then we will go back out to the public in the South Side neighborhood with some of those renderings once we have them in a little bit better spot or cleaned up spot. At the same time, we're going to begin working on what we're calling phase 2. We've been really focused on the building. Obviously, a critical component of this project is the bus bays themselves, and we haven't delved too far into design on that. So we're going to start kicking off the bus bays and then the Civic Plaza space, more of the eastern portions of the project. The implementation of those will be delayed a little bit from the building because of the Rio to Flag project. That ideally that box culvert will go in first, and then we will do the improvements on top of the box culvert. So there's some timing to go along with the Rio to Flag project on that phase, which is why it's lagging behind a little bit. I hope to report back to you maybe even next month that our NEPA is finalized. That would be very exciting. And then we are aiming towards breaking ground in November. This is optimistic, I would say. And when we say breaking ground, it may not look like much to the public. We need to do a lot of asbestos remediation in that building before we demo it. But that's kind of the timeline for kicking off. We are planning on doing some sort of groundbreaking. We're not sure exactly when. Obviously, asbestos remediation is not the most exciting part of a groundbreaking, but maybe once we're ready to actually demo that building, we'll do something and we'll make a public event out of it. So more information forthcoming on what that will look like. And then really we're hoping that the building would start to go vertical about 4 months after whenever we're able to get that building, the asbestos remediated. So that's kind of the timeline that we're looking at. It does put us at opening in the summer of 2024. So fingers crossed, we'll be holding a meeting there in 2 summers from now.
Very exciting.
Yeah, that's all I have, and I'm happy. I know that's a quick overview. Happy to review any of the slides or go over any additional information people are interested in.
Thank you so much, Deputy General Manager Morley. Directors, comments, questions? I definitely have a couple. Guess I'll go ahead and start us off. Kate, can we just remove the stairs and just do one ramp?
So we've looked at that, and the challenge is we haven't been able to come up with a ramp that's like a wide open ramp because of the size. So if we could have a wide open ramp that was very welcoming, I think we would all really like that. But we don't have enough distance to meet the maximum grade requirements for a wheelchair without zigzagging a ramp. And so it just makes for a weird entrance into a building to just have the zigzag. I think what I would say is staff are also not satisfied with that view from Milton, and it's something that we continue to work on and are pushing the architecture team on. And I hope to come back with some better plans for sure. But it's been a real challenge. That would be the ultimate goal, but we just haven't figured out a good way to just have a ramp and not stairs yet.
I hear you, and I'll just, as one member of this board, I'll just state that, I'd rather have us have one zigzag ramp than a two system approach, even if it's funky, just for the sake of inclusivity and universal design. But I definitely look forward to seeing what you and the team continue to come up with. So I have 3 points in total. So that was my first one. My second one is, are we still planning to put sheltered bicycle parking, or protected bicycle parking? Great.
There is, in fact, Rhonda, if you back up to the very first rendering, I can point it out to you. It's in there, but I forgot to mention it. So in this slide here, that planter box, that's kind of the white planter box, you see boxes underneath it, that it would be covered or enclosed bike storage for people who may want to pay for bike storage or maybe not pay, but a higher level bike storage. We will also have a lot of regular bike racks for
Very
people
good.
who prefer that. But yeah, we love the way the architect came up with that planter on top. We thought it looked really neat.
That's great. And then the bike racks that we do have, if there's any way realistically to have them be covered, just so they're sheltered from the weather. Whenever I pass by the current bus station and I see those bikes out there, I just cringe a little bit, right? Very good. And then my last comment, if you can go to the view from Milton. Okay, this is from Milton. Okay, so I guess my only comment here, Kate, is just that, when people pass this building from Milton, if they don't know what it is, I just hope that we can find a way to really brand it or display what we're doing, maybe in a visual way with an image perhaps, just to make it super clear what's going on here. Just so there's no question as to what this building is, just to really have that identity. Any thoughts on that?
No, that's a great point. We haven't talked through signage yet on the building.
Can you mute it, or I can't hear you?
Can you hear me now? Okay. We have not talked through signage yet on the building. The current Downtown Connection Center doesn't have any signage, and I think it's something we would like to improve upon. And so we'll be working with the landscape team on how to get a monument sign or some sort of signage on the building that does indicate it's the Downtown Connection Center.
Or even, I love that big, mural on the side of Absolute Bikes. It doesn't necessarily need to be, Mountain Line, Downtown Connection Center. I mean, it could be, but we can also get our artists, creative with that too. That sounds good. Directors, any other comments or questions? Director Begay, I'm gonna put you on the spot too. Love to hear your thoughts if you have any, but I see Vice Chair Williams has a comment. Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Yes, one, I would like to echo the suggestions coming from Chairman Shimoni. I think his ideas are worth taking into consideration, and definitely support the universal access suggestions that have come forward. Under the circumstances, it's probably much easier said than done, but I do want to recognize the Mountain Line team for taking that into consideration and making a good faith effort for that, because it just makes the environment that much more welcoming when people don't have to do something to suggest that they need to have that access piece. And then third, and certainly not last, I just want to compliment Heather and Kate and others that have been working on this project. And especially for the extra effort that has gone into securing the funds in order to make this move forward. I think the announcement from the $6.1 million or whatever that we were able to get from the state is a amazing breakthrough, and something that you all should pat yourselves on the back for. I had a conversation with Miles yesterday with the Metro Plan, and he's still puzzled at how the Mountain Line Board was so effective in their efforts. So I want that made me feel good when I was talking with him yesterday, and I just wanted to share with you that big kudos to you all.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Yeah, that's incredible. And as I'm looking at this image, Kate, I'm wondering, is that a wall that's adjacent to the ramp?
Yeah, that's the building, as I mentioned, is elevated, and so that's a retaining wall there. And that's where we want to add some there'll be landscaping, et cetera, in front of that, or there has been some discussion about some public art, but
Yes.
something to beautify that. And that's what we want to work through those details before we do any public, I mean, this is a public meeting, but before we take it out for an intentional like stakeholders meeting or Southside meeting.
And Kay, it just makes me think about our library and the library entrance that we're working on with the public art, with it being a universal design approach. And also the entrance to the airport, the walkway to the airport, they're doing all sorts of art, and they're doing like a mural that kind of like tells a story. Not that we need to do either of those approaches, but yeah, if we get creative with it and make that ramp really the featured approach, even if it's awkward and zigzaggy, I think it could be really widely accepted by all users, right? So that's really exciting. Director Begay, do you have any thoughts that you'd like to share or questions?
This is Supervisor Begay, our Director Begay.
Yes.
I have a hard time unmuting and muting, so. But yeah, I think the plans are really great. This is probably the third overall that I've seen the presentation, and I do agree with the chair as far as some of the Shimoni regarding some of the recommendations that he's had. So the universal portion of it. So that's what I wanted to just reiterate. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Director Begay. Appreciate you finding that mute button and joining the conversation. We appreciate it and sharing your thoughts. Great. Director Mayer, anything from you before we move on?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Kate. Wonderful work, and looking forward to the next update. Good work, team. Moving on, Kate, are we good to continue? Very good. Okay, we're down to item number 10, which is the delegate authority to the CEO and general manager to execute the Mountain Line Express service agreement with Arizona Snowball Resort Limited Partnership. Staff recommends the board delegate authority to the CEO and general manager to execute the Mountain Line Express service agreement with Arizona Snowball Resort Limited Partnership. Busy Collins will be leading this conversation.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. I don't have any slides, so we're just going to look at this slide. But this is a high-profile topic, the Arizona Snowball Resort Limited Partnership lease with the Forest Service. Mountain Express is very separate from that. We provide incredible bus service during the winter to Snowball. We've had this partnership in place for 7 years. So it was at the request of a board member to just bring this to the board and make sure that nobody had concerns about the current approval process of our contract with Arizona Snowball Resort Limited Partnership for the Mountain Express service. So I'll pause there for any questions. I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, Busy, and thank you to Heather and the team for entertaining my request to bring this to the board. This is a 5-year agreement, correct?
It is a 1-year agreement with opportunity to renew for 15 years.
Okay, very good. And without going into all of the concerns I had that I had the opportunity to work through with leadership and with Snowball representation, Yeah, I think that this is good. My only question, and then I'll be happy to see if anyone else has any questions or comments. My only question to you, Busy, is can you speak to the pros and cons of there being a stop at the bottom of Snowball Road, rather than just stopping from, Flag High in the DCC? For folks who don't know, that's where the shuttle typically picks people up, and then they can take folks all the way up to Snowball. But it is a public service, so anyone's welcome to ride, although it is funded by Snowball. There has been a request that we have stops, another additional stop at the bottom of the mountain at Snowball Road. Can you just speak to that a little bit, Busy?
Absolutely, Chair. So we currently have 6 stops on the Mountain Express service: Downtown Connection Center, Flagstaff High School. Both of those are park and ride locations. And then we serve 2 of our regular Route 5 stops along US 180. There is that Fort Valley Snowball Road that Chair Shimoni brought up, and then top of the hill, Hart Prairie Lodge. And so the last 2 seasons, we have not served the Fort Valley Road, Snowball Road area. That is of interest to Snowball. That's part of their long-term master plan of having more visitor services at the bottom of that road, et cetera. To the point of Chair Shimoni's question, having that stop on Fort Valley Road and Snowball Road does not necessarily achieve the goal of Mountain Express to alleviate congestion along US 180. It does alleviate congestion along Snowball Road, which is a benefit, but we still see congestion along 180 with that stop. With our ridership spread in past years, when we did serve that Fort Valley Road, Snowball Road, we had fewer trips taken from the Downtown Connection Center and the Flagstaff High School park and ride locations. And when we removed that Fort Valley Road, Snowball Road park and ride location, we did see good increases in the Downtown Connection Center and Flagstaff High park and rides, which kept people off of US 180, really reduced those vehicle trips there. So we have yet to continue discussing Mountain Express service for this next season and what that looks like. We do understand that Snowball is very interested in having that stop, but I think it's just a conversation that we continue to have with them. And there are opportunities. We've heard from Snowball that they also have opportunities to serve that just from Hart Prairie down to the Fort Valley Road, bottom Snowball Road themselves. So maybe that's a service they provide, and we continue to provide other stop services. So I'll pause there for questions. I hope I addressed your question, Chair Shimoni.
You sure did. I really appreciate it. And like, what else comes to mind is, with all the gear that one needs to go skiing or snowboarding at Snowball, I can imagine an additional stop at the bottom of the hill being somewhat time consuming and almost an inconvenience to those who are taking the time to do the park and ride. And so I do agree with your comments, Busy, about, for one, it proving with the data that it's more successful when we don't stop. But I think we need to encourage people to do the park and ride and not necessarily stop at the bottom, and that they do have their own shuttle, so they can just wait for their own shuttle if they need to. But that's helpful. My only other question, can you just speak to how are we, do we have signage? Like, I can almost imagine one of those, police signs, not that we should be pulling in the police department into this, but one of those roadside signs that say, park and ride, or how are we promoting and ensuring that people are aware of this service?
Great question. So we do have flyers that we give to all of the local agencies here at Flagstaff. I understand Jackie probably coordinates with other tourist agencies, Phoenix, et cetera, to make sure that they have all of this. It's up on the Snowball website, et cetera, really advertising those park and ride locations, the Downtown Connection Center, the Flagstaff High locations. To your question about signage, that's absolutely an option. It has been used in the past. The park and ride component is very much Snowball's responsibility. That's part of our contract. I understand that they have done signage in the past in a partnership with a business that was along Humphreys. Right. And I understand that was very successful. So we would love to see that again. We definitely would love to work with Snowball on those opportunities, but it's definitely Snowball's responsibility to lead that.
Very good, very good. Thank you. Other directors, other questions, comments? Okay, Director Begay, you good?
Yes.
Awesome, wonderful. Thank you, Busy. I appreciate you taking the time to present this to us and to staff and leadership for bringing this to us. And yeah, I look forward to seeing another successful year of this partnership. Great. So moving on to agenda item number 11, this is our Flagstaff in Motion, a community transit plan also with Busy. And the board may provide direction, but there is no recommendation from staff at this time.
Excuse me, Chair, this is Rhonda. I believe we need a vote on this to delegate. This, you know.
Okay.
There is an overarching agreement already, but
Right.
I think because this was more controversial, it was.
No, you're absolutely right. Director Mayor,
I'd like to make a motion.
please.
Move to delegate authority to the CEO and general manager to execute the Mountain Express service agreement with Arizona Snow Bowl.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same motion. That motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Rhonda, and my bad. Okay, so now we're down to 11, which is our Flagstaff in Motion, a community transit plan. The board may provide direction, but there is no recommendation from staff at this time. Busy, take it away.
Chair. Next slide, please, Rhonda. So we've been talking with you about Flagstaff in Motion for a good year now. I'm very excited that we're arriving at some recommendations. We are not finalized on all of the recommendations, and that's part of what I'll be presenting to you today. And over the next two board meetings, September and the October advance, we do look at really finalizing those, having some cost estimates, et cetera, to help guide our decisions and recommendations. But overall, the Flagstaff in Motion plan is to identify the best way to provide and fund mountain line transit services. Next slide, please. And I'll be covering 3 topics today. I welcome any questions throughout. I can see your hands raised, so happy to address those as they come up. I'll also pause at the end of each topic just to make sure that there aren't any other questions. Next slide, please. So here's just project status. We are about halfway through. It feels like it's taken a long time to get through this stage 3, but we're really making sure that staff has consensus, feels really comfortable with the recommendations, and then, you know, moving into other places, the public involvement, et cetera, to make sure that we're bringing everyone along. Next slide, please. And as a reminder, this is kind of the setup for our discussion today. So in your packet, there was the transit needs assessment, and that's the top portion, really understanding those prioritized needs. And those were prioritized based on our evaluation criteria, which was also in the packet. And then on the bottom, even though we had scenarios, those are very much packages to help us evaluate. These are not the final scenarios. We will arrive at final scenarios. They're really just the list of improvements to help us evaluate. Next slide, please. So improvements with staff consensus. Next slide. So we have some things that we need to fix in our current system. There's some missed layovers and some on-time performance on a few routes. And we're also looking forward to our electric buses. I'm so excited. It's going to be a very great learning experience. And in theory, we understand that there's some charging needs for some of our routes to have some more time during layover at the Downtown Connection Center, which will be the main location of electric bus charging. But really on the bottom there, staff agreed that we want to be very strategic and prioritize efficiency. And we really want to address these 2 issues through many small solutions that are listed here. We definitely see that they can be addressed through incremental solutions. And again, we'll just be learning so much about electric buses, what those needs are, and we'll just definitely adjust as needed once we have the electric buses in. Next slide, please. and recommendations for route improvements that have staff consensus. So the numbers on the left-hand side are the prioritized ranking. So Route 66 was our #1 prioritized need, et cetera. And on the bottom, the map is showing the routes that were listed here in bold. So for example, Route 66 is our red route. So it's a thicker line than the other ones. And so Route 66, we are looking at increasing frequency during peak and off-peak times. Currently, Route 66 has 30 minutes peak, 60 minutes off-peak. So based on our criteria, we do see that this is the highest need, and we will be looking at it increasing frequency. What that frequency is, we are still determining through cost estimates and seeing what makes sense for our system. The next item is the Route 66 neighborhoods. So this is had the ranking of both 2 and 7 because of the way we broke these neighborhoods up into chunks. It was the north side of Route 66 and the south side of Route 66. So the north side was our #2, south side was #7. And really we see the best way to achieve the needs of these neighborhoods is to extend Route 8 to Woody Mountain Road. That's the dashed line in teal on the bottom left in that map. And then Route 2, making the deviation permanent. So the blue line is our Route 2. We currently do a deviation on school days only, morning and afternoon on Gemini Road, and that was to help basis. However, that entire area is just increasing with density, increasing with development. We have senior housing there. We have the veterans home coming in. There's just a very high need. Continuous housing developments, coming down the pike. So we really want to make that a permanent route, permanent part of our Route 2. And we can do that with a capital improvement. So enabling a westbound left turn off of the Mesa from Gemini to Forest. And that would be a capital improvement. We don't need any ongoing operation funding. We can maintain our frequency. And so it's a long-term solution, but it's the right thing to do for our system and for the people that we serve in that area. Next slide, please. And here are some recommendations for coverage improvements. So this map is, there's a lot going on. The blue lines in the background is the walk shed, quarter-mile walk shed according to the road network. And so all of the blue dots are our existing bus stops, and the black dots that have an orange halo are recommendations for adding bus stops. You can see we are starting to address some of our coverage improvements by simply adding bus stops on our current routes. And then some other things for coverage improvements include the existing Huntington Industrial Microtransit Service, the GO service, that has become permanent. So we're really excited to have that. That is a huge coverage need. So continuing that. Also the Kiss and Ride locations, it's kind of a play on park and ride, but there's no parking. It's more of a pullover, drop somebody off that's in your car and let them ride the bus system, pick them up afterwards. So those are the black stars kind of on each of the ends of our service where people are coming into Flagstaff. So having those opportunities, that would be a capital improvement. You can see some stars that don't connect to routes that would require route extensions. So we're talking about on the left side, the Route 8 extension on West Route 66. On the south, bottom left star, that would be, we're assuming the hospital route does come into effect there. So it doesn't reflect new routes. These stars don't reflect that. And then the last item is the e-bike and scooter share. We want to be, again, very efficient. The areas that have the yellow circles really make sense to connect with e-bike and scooter share. Maybe there's other services, but this is a low-hanging fruit item. This would be done in coordination with the city's vendor. I know that is still yet to be secured, but it's a goal of ours that we would love to partner and try to help guide some of these e-bike or scooter share locations to help increase coverage to the existing transit service. And then of course, the pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. So next slide, please, Rhonda. We have a few areas that are specifically barriers to accessing transit listed here. But overall, we are very supportive of the active transportation master plan improvements that are listed. And would just love to make sure that they're in our plan to really be able to point back to and support our requests. So I'm going to pause there, and I have my next section is improvements that need further input to arrive at recommendations, but any questions on items with staff consensus?
Directors, any questions? Not seeing any. Please continue.
Thank you. Excellent. Next slide, please, Rhonda. All right, so further input needed on these next items. Next slide, please. So again, we have the ranking on the left in the little bubble, and Ponderosa Trails, Airport, you know, we have some opportunities to serve those. Really, we need to understand what those costs are, how those costs really fall into the bottom line of a reasonable funding amount that we would want to seek, and funding sources are yet to be determined as well. But, you know, really understanding where these lie among our other wish list items that we previously identified. And you can see that, so our ranking goes to number 34. So, you know, 10 through 16, kind of a middle priority, I would say, for our organization. We would love to see them. How it makes sense with the bottom line is yet to be determined. And there's also some items for rider input, like Route 3. We're also talking about making the deviation permanent on Route 3. We see the most density coming in on 4th Street. That's our deviation. And, you know, additional housing coming online. So it makes sense. Transit loves density, so it makes sense to have that our regular route. But that would only happen if we can continue service on Fox Glen Street, a regular part of Route 3, with a microtransit service. So, you know, again, just making sure that we can fund microtransit service. We don't want to take away any service that our riders have today, our communities have today. So it's a recommendation if we can afford the microtransit service in Country Club to replace it. Next slide, please, Rhonda. And these are some other items that we are continuing to analyze. So fare free, could we go fare free during peak congestion? Could that help the timing of our routes? Could that increase resiliency on our routes as traffic congestion increases over time? How does that affect our bottom line? So we know that it takes a while for people to fumble with their fare, to get the fare out, pay it. It increases the dwell time, takes more time for our routes to move through. Could that also, going fare free, could it help increase ridership? We've seen it anecdotally, yes, but again, all of these things to balance. And could that be all day? Could it be just certain times of the day? And then, you know, there's other goals listed here that we're really interested in. We continue to hear late night service as an interest. Peak span, do we need to go later than about 5 o'clock, which is where we currently end peak, etc. So the last item is frequency and connections, and that's the very colorful table seen there. So does it make sense for our system to really align with frequencies that allows those connections at our downtown connection center and mall connection center? Or is it better for us to capitalize on where it makes sense to increase frequency and not have them align? So that's definitely a question we'll be going to riders with. You know, do you like having different frequencies? Would you prefer to see similar frequencies across the system to enable those crosstown connections? Next slide, please, Rhonda. And so this is the last recommendation slide. This is, we're continuing conversations with funding. So the new hospital route, those are the 3 maps shown here. We're continuing those conversations, which I know Kate will be chatting with on the next agenda item. And so really dependent on funding on that item. And then our bedroom communities, you know, what's the best way to serve them? We definitely have the kiss and ride locations to at least give them some sort of opportunity to connect into the current transit system. But are there other opportunities through the county in funding or other mechanisms that we can better support people who are coming into Flagstaff? So to be determined. So I'm going to pause there, and my last slide is just next steps. So any questions on recommendations to be determined?
Directors. No, the only thing that comes up to my mind, Busy, is just the lens of equity. Just overall, overarching everything we're talking about, but I think you can make an equity case for any of these, right? So, yeah, that's all from me. Anything else, directors? Not seeing anything. Go ahead, Busy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next slide, please, Rhonda. And so next steps, as I mentioned, we'll continue doing the analysis for those recommendations, understanding the cost impacts for them, and then bringing those out to riders to really help staff identify recommendations before we bring those to the board. We are also looking to consult with the Citizen Advisory Committee, who are representatives of community groups and major players in the community. So making sure that we hear from them on our direction, and our funding sources is also a item that we look to them on. And then really just exploring all the variety of funding sources. Currently, we have the transit sales tax as our major local funding source that we match with our federal grants and formula funding. Is there other funding sources that make sense? And I will just mention in the TAC meeting that MetroPlan does have a grant to explore creative local match opportunities, and we will be looking for recommendations from that plan as well to incorporate into our funding source identification. With that, that's all I have. Happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Busy. Great presentation. I'll just say one other comment came to mind. I think it was Route 3 that you mentioned along 4th Street. I really just appreciate the focus there. But I think you gave a great presentation, and I don't have anything else to add. Directors, anything else to add? Director Begay, you good?
I'm okay, thank you.
Good. Okay, I think we're ready to move on. Thank you, Busy. So that brings us down to item number 12 of our agenda, which is our Northern Arizona Healthcare Hospital relocation updates. The board may provide direction, but there is no recommendation from staff at this time, and Deputy General Manager Morley will be leading this discussion.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. I also don't have a PowerPoint slide, but just an update for you on progress. So we have been meeting with Gentera, who is in partnership with NIH on the development of the site, and to look at the transit options. As a reminder, what the Mountain Line Board asked is that there be a plan for transit in place prior to approvals moving forward, so that everybody was on the same page about what transit would or would not look like as that occurred. We don't have a plan in place yet. However, we are optimistic about the conversations that we're having with Gentera on behalf of NIH about what that might look like, and we're optimistic that we might get there. Our recommendations remain the same that they have been since really the get-go, that there be 20-minute service associated with the opening of the main hospital. We've provided some options for phasing into that. If they may open an ambulatory center prior to the hospital. In that case, we may not need that 20-minute service. We've provided some scaling recommendations for building into the opening of the hospital at 20-minute service. There are definite concerns about the cost of operating the service. It is not inexpensive. We're looking at about $1.5 million a year to do that. We're trying to get creative about other services that we could potentially reallocate to be able to help assist with some of that. So as we're working through Flagstaff in Motion, we're trying to get strategic about other things we could do in alignment with the NIH route that may provide a savings to allow for that NIH route extension. So for example, 4 and 14 do the clockwise circles down Lone Tree, clockwise and counterclockwise circles on Lone Tree and Milton. If this NAH route were to come in, there may be opportunity to consolidate 4 and 14 into a line route serving Bow and Arrow and Lone Tree, and not reduplicate the service along Milton with an additional route. And that may provide a cost savings opportunity where we can come to the table and be able to say that. But we still have to refine all that as we look at Flagstaff in motion and see if that's really the priority or if that's even feasible from a route timing perspective. But we are trying to be creative about how to find partnership on moving this forward. I will point out Rich Bowen has joined us with Gentera, so he is now on the line for this conversation as well. And yeah, really, we're just optimistic about being able to find or being able to come up with a plan as we move forward. And we're appreciative of the conversations that we have been having. But we still don't have a defined plan in place at this point.
Thank you, Deputy General Manager. Yeah, I appreciate you all working on this with Rich and the team at Gentera and NAH. This is so important, that we have a public accessible route to the hospital, the new location. Rich, are you with us?
I'm here. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks for letting me join you.
Yeah, would you like to introduce yourself and give us a little bit of update from your perspective in just a few minutes?
Sure. Yeah, just tell me when.
Okay, you can go ahead and go now, but just
Okay,
a few minutes of time.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Rich Bowen, Senior Vice President with Gentera. And Gentera is the development partner with Northern Arizona Healthcare. And we'll be focused on all of the development that will occur around the hospital. But we're also assisting Northern Arizona Healthcare in putting together some of the major infrastructure elements, including transportation and transit. Transit being our focus today and one of our favorite things to talk about, since myself, and we recently hired Erica Mazza and Tim Kenny, who is our CEO of Gentera, have been on the Mountain Line NAPTA board in the past, really involved with some of the NAU projects. And then, so we're big fans of NAPTA and Mountain Line, and Heather and Kate and team. So we're excited to be here with you today to try and figure out how we can make a line work, a Mountain Line route out to the new hospital a reality. We certainly, as you can imagine, it gets complex with trying to build a new hospital, widen roads, expand interchanges, a lot of cost here, but I think we're all on the right mindset that this is super important that we figure out how to get a transit line out to the hospital, and then ultimately a transit line that would serve the airport, a transit line that would serve that whole south end of Flagstaff. And then as the future J.W. Powell gets developed from the airport all the way to 4th Street, at least initially from the airport to Lone Tree, that would be another great connecting route for the transit line. But those are all future oriented. The hospital probably won't come on board until 2027, 2028. And so we've got a little bit of time to work through this. Our goal is to, of course, come alongside with Mountain Line and you all as the board, and to come up to support you, one, in helping find some federal funding to help in the next tax initiative and expansion of the line, because I say we're pretty big on transit for the community and for what Mountain Line does for the community. And then we're hoping to and then figure out the formula for how NAH can be a major contributor to the cost and in an equitable fashion. And so while we haven't gotten there 100%, I really applaud Kate and Heather for their work with Erica and us to begin to define that model. And we're hoping by the time this project gets in front of the city council for rezoning approval, that we have a little bit more definition. We're not quite there yet We got a lot of great ideas. I think we have a model to move it forward. And so it's pretty excited. And I'll stop there and open it up for questions that you may have me, but I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Shimoni.
Thank you, Rich. Really appreciate your words and your partnership in making this a reality. You know, it always comes down to partnership, and it takes both of us to make this dream a reality and make it a priority. So we appreciate your willingness and your efforts to make this happen. Directors, any comments or questions for Mr. Bowen? Not seeing any. Rich, this is coming back to council, I think in November. Is that correct? Is that the goal? Is that the timeline we're working on?
Well, we're the end of October, 1st of November.
Okay, clock is ticking, but
Yes.
we can do it. And I know we have a great team at Mountain Line who is amazing, especially Estella, at finding funding, but you know, no pressure to do that, obviously. But we'll figure this out one way or another. So
we will. Well, you've got a stellar team, and we know that, you know, got strong leadership at Mountain Line, which we really appreciate. And so we're excited with the idea that we can come along and come alongside the team and provide whatever support we can. You know, we want to be holistic as well. You know, while our focus is the transit line, the route that would go out to the new hospital, we want to go beyond that in our thinking and think about how does this entire system serve the community. And so we've made an offer to help with, you know, developing PACs and fundraising and things for the next tax initiative, as well as bringing any additional resources to the team in helping, you know, pursue grants and other things like that. But more importantly, we just want to see Mountain Line thrive over the long term.
we want to see the public reaching the hospital with ease as well, right?
Exactly.
Very good. Well, thank you, Rich. And
Exactly.
if there aren't any questions or comments, Kate, is there anything else that we want to discuss here? Or are we good to move on?
No, good to move on. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kate. And thank you, Rich.
You bet. All right. Thank you all. Take care.
Take care. Great. That brings us down to our progress reports, which there were plenty of. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review some of those. And Heather, I'll pass the mic over to you.
Great. Thank you. So I'll remind everyone, if you have comments or would like us to present on any of the progress reports, please let me know. Otherwise, the information is included in your packet as an update. I will specifically go down to the summary of current events. You'll note there was not a report in your packet this time. And mostly that's because there wasn't a lot to share outside of all of the various progress reports. But I would like to take a few minutes since we have them and share some information about employee anniversaries above and beyond the milestones that were recognized earlier and introduce you to a few new team members. Next slide, Rhonda. So in May, we celebrated 3 anniversaries. Ryan Mitchell, who is the picture on your right-hand side, is a transit bus operator for us, celebrating his first year of service. In the middle is Jimmy Gray, and Jimmy has worked for us for 17 years. We've actually shared Jimmy with NAU for a long time, but he's now retired at NAU and continues to round out our transit operations team. And on the left is Ann Dunno. You're all familiar with Ann. We just celebrated her 8th anniversary in our planning division and does really great work in our capital planning and guiding many of our projects. Next slide. In June, we celebrated, I'm going to distinguish into 2 categories here. There's 3 photos in the bottom right-hand corner, Dave Wessel, Rosie Weir, and Jeff Malbeck. They're MetroPlan. MetroPlan joined Mountain Line's team about 2 years ago. So I will just distinguish and celebrate their joining of our team, but they really have a separate mission than most of our employees. The other 5 employees, we have Karen Moeller in the top left-hand side of the screen. Karen is celebrating 8 years, and Karen has served in a wide variety of roles in our agency. She served as a paratransit operator and is now our customer service and outreach coordinator in the front office. So she's participating in a lot of our back to school events with Jackie Lenners. Tamara is just on the right side of that, started out as a transit bus operator for us, served most of her career as our front office or front desk person, but now sits in our accounting role while she pursues an accounting degree at Northern Arizona University. And we're very excited to support her in that development goal. Jen Petrie is on the top right-hand side. Jen has been a driver for us for 11 years. She used to drive Route 5 pretty regularly. I think she changes that up more than anything now, but was great with our high school student population at Flagstaff Arts and Leadership Academy. We all know the person on the bottom left-hand side, Rhonda Cashman, celebrating 11 years with Mountain Line, and so many things that we can thank Rhonda for in her position as executive assistant and clerk of the board. And in the middle of the screen is Rob Leslie. Rob is celebrating 7 years as a transit bus operator for our agency, and his favorite route is Route 10. He is dedicated to running Route 10 with our Northern Arizona University students. Next slide. For July anniversaries, we have 4 anniversaries to celebrate. On the very far left-hand side is Jerry Holsworth. Jerry joined us 4 years ago as a Mountain Line transit bus operator. Next to him is Patrick Bozeman. He is celebrating 4 years. Patrick is now an operations supervisor, but did originally join our team as a transit bus operator. Next to Patrick is Mark Attenberger. Mark has been with Mountain Line 14 years. Mark started out as a transit bus operator and is currently our fleet supervisor. So he does a lot of our service writing and our support for our fleet and fleet staff. And on the right-hand side is Alyssa Lane. Alyssa joined us 2 years ago, and I believe is still a student at Northern Arizona University. She is a transit bus operator for us. Next slide. And the last of our anniversaries is for the month of August. And you can see the 6 anniversaries that we're celebrating here. Frank Lascota is on the top left-hand side. Frank is a transit bus operator and has been here for 8 years. Next to Frank is David Slack. He's now celebrating his 2nd year. And I will tell you, David was hired under our rehire program just a couple months ago. So David had left and we were able to convince him to come back with some of our programs and offerings. Donovan Walker's top right-hand side. Donovan started out as a bus detailer for our agency right before COVID or right in the middle of COVID, and has been developed and moved into the position as transit bus operator. On the bottom left is Greg Lyons. He is one of our mechanic teams, works with Andrew very closely on maintenance for our vehicles. In the middle is Devin Dwyer, who's celebrating his 2nd year as a transit bus operator. And on the far right is Wallace Stain, who is celebrating his 1st year as a transit bus operator. We're so thankful for all of these team members, and I appreciate you giving me a few minutes to share their photos and their anniversaries with you. And we'll continue bringing those milestone anniversaries and look forward to celebrating these individuals because I know they're all committed and will be here for a very long time. Next slide. Introduction of a few new team members. So these are some of our new transit bus operators. On the top right hand is Paul Ramus, and his smile just makes me smile. Paul is a returning staff member as well, though he was here several years ago when we were back on Huffer Lane, I believe, and Paul has returned as a transit bus operator. And across the bottom, going left to right, we have Mike Langang, Ben Collins, both new to our agency. Kenzie Catrone in the Star Wars reference t-shirt is a returning driver. She actually left several years ago and has come back, and we're very grateful to have her rejoin our team. She'll be driving for us part-time while she pursues her career or her education at Northern Arizona University. And on the right-hand side is Maria. And Maria just joined our team. She will not be a CDL driver, but she's going to round out our non-CDL driving requirements. And we're very glad to have her join our team. And the last slide of our new team members, these are team members who are not transit bus operators, but we're very excited that they are with us. On the top right is Mitch. Mitch is a shared employee with MetroPlan. He serves in the Montoya Fellowship or Internship Program, so we're supporting him with job development while he finishes up his education. On the bottom left is Andrea, and I'm not going to say her last name right, but Petrucci, and she just joined our team as document control specialist. She is helping us with record retention, building file names, and other things that we have been pursuing for the last couple of years, and we're very grateful for all of the administrative work that she is doing for us. In the middle is Aaliyah De La Torres, and she is our accounting technician supporting our front desk functions, pass sales, and other things. And on the bottom right is Dwight. Dwight is a returning employee. Dwight was here once before as a bus detailer, left for several years, and has come back and is working in our facilities division. So that's a brief overview of some anniversaries and new staff. I do have just a couple of announcements. Microtransit wanted to let you know that we have worked with the vendor that provides our commingling solution to take part of a promotion they are offering, which allows our microtransit riders to choose a TNC when they are booking their trips. The TNC that they are contracted with is Lyft. And in a 2-week period of 59 microtransit trips, 27 of those riders chose a TNC solution over our vehicle. And it's a great opportunity for us to really look at how riders in the on-demand systems look at and use TNCs and ensure that there's enough availability to provide some of those transportation. So one advantage to taxi and TNC is really that those trips are cheaper for us as the transit agency than when we send out our own vehicle. So we'll continue with that opportunity that's being offered by our microtransit provider while we explore whether there might be more opportunities. Our team, Jackie and Karen and many other staff supporting them, have been very busy with back to school events around town, answering questions about transit and helping with trip planning and selling of passes. Very well received at many of the high school events that Jackie and her team have attended, as well as the charter schools, Basis, Fala, and Northland Preparatory schools all have students that regularly buy passes from us. And the last one is we continue to really focus on staffing and staffing strategies. We have an event coming up this Saturday. Jackie sent me where that was at, and I've already forgotten. It will be at Coconino High School. The event is called Drive Flagstaff, and it's a joint effort between Northern Arizona University, Flagstaff Unified School District, and Mountain Line to appeal to those that may be interested in jobs that require a CDL, but that allow them to stay and work within our community. So we're very excited about that effort and opportunity for that job fair on behalf of our 3 agencies. And that's my very quick update on some current events that were not in progress reports, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
That's great. Thank you so much for that, Heather. Any questions, directors? Not seeing any. Big congratulations to all those celebrating anniversaries and all the great updates and efforts that you mentioned, Heather. That's what really wonderful. Very good. Well, I think we're good to move on.
Yes.
To our executive session. So we will reconvene as a board in executive session here momentarily.
Excuse me, Chair Shawnee, we need a motion, please.
I was just thinking about that. Yes, is there a motion to move into executive session?
I'll move that we go into executive session.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Williams, a second from Director Mayer. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same motion. That motion carries. And Rhonda will move us over to ESESH. Thank you.
Okay, and you're fascinating. Sorry. I'm going to, thanks for being here.
You're welcome. This is locked.
Oh. Oh, too nice. Thank you.
People from outside.
Right, I appreciate you. Sure. Sign, thank you.
Wanna work.
Oh, there might be because I'm still sharing or do you, yeah.
I did, but you take over.
Hey, I'm so sorry, Rhonda. I'm still here. I'm not too sure if you moved me over yet or not.
Well, we're working on it, sorry.
Okay, no worries.
Um,
Just want to make sure you're fine.
I know Rhonda stepped out to grab our IT guy, so hang on 1 second.
Heather, as we're waiting, can you remind me what it was during this to and from section that we were going to cover?
I'm sorry?
Was there something during items from committee and staff that we were going to address?
We are, for everyone on the phone, if you have not responded to Rhonda regarding the plan to hold October as an in-person meetings, if you would look for that message. We're looking just to confirm that we have consensus on an in-person meeting in October. October is our joint meeting, a strategic advance with both board and TAC. We are looking at renting space at the Aquaplex so that we can offer distancing, but we do prefer an in-person environment, and the Aquaplex does not lend itself to a hybrid. So just a reminder, if you could look for that message and respond, we would appreciate it. That was it, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. I was struggling to find the mute button. Yeah, very good. Okay, and we're back in our regular meeting. Very good. I think that brings us down to just our scheduling of our next meeting. And my only comment here to the directors and leadership is just that, you know, I would like to see us potentially discuss the payroll and where those funds are being held. I know that the city is doing something similarly, and we're working through that ourselves through a citizens petition that was brought forward to us. I know there's a lot of public interest around this topic, and I'm really intrigued to see how that plays out with the city. And so, Heather, if that's something we could add to a future agenda, I'm guessing that's going to come up in an executive session. Yeah, any thoughts?
Yeah, so we are in the process of procuring our banking and banking solutions. And just to clarify, Mountain Line uses Wells Fargo Bank for all of our banking account needs outside of Treasury Management. Treasury Management is performed by Coconino County Treasurer's Office, and we do not have any say on what banking solutions they use as related to Treasury Management. But I will be happy to bring a more in-depth review of where we're at, how we make those decisions, and what we are recommending as banking solutions as we move forward at a future meeting.
I appreciate that. Directors, any other items to be discussed at future agenda meetings? Vice Chair.
No, I don't have any.
Okay, not seeing any. I think with that, that brings us down to adjournment, correct? Heather, is there anything else we're missing?
I don't have anything else. Of course, if you have any agenda items now or in the future, please let us know.
Hey, thank you all so much. Good meeting. That was a long one. Covered a lot of ground. Welcome back, everyone, and have a great week and a great month, and we'll see you soon. We are
Thanks,
adjourned.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.